The Ford Maverick, which also has another disguise as the Nissan Terrano, what was the sort of history behind the development of the two cars, which are basically the same?
Nissan Terrano was actually the first launch of the vehicle, and this is actually based on the Nissan Terrano 2. Ford had a joint venture with Nissan, and basically the vehicles are the same but badged differently. They have same suspension, same specification and exactly the same engine lineup.
And what do you think of them? What are they actually like?
They're actually not a bad performer really. We sell these predominantly on price. They are a budget 4x4 for want of a better description with the vehicles. There's only two engines in them. They do a 2.7 turbo diesel and they do a 2.4 petrol, both in the short wheelbase and the long wheelbase. Long wheelbase is probably the more popular version for families and secondary vehicles because they're a bit more of a load carrier as opposed to the three-door. There's very limited space actually, both in the Terrano and the Maverick in the short wheelbase version.
Ford decided back in 1992-93 that they needed a 4x4 to introduce to the marketplace with a Ford oval badge on. They decided to go into partnership with Nissan, who had the Terrano, and Ford decided that, yep, we'll have that, call it a Maverick and put a Ford badge on. Whether that was a wise move, to be honest, is doubtful because, 6 years down the line, the Maverick is on its way out. The Maverick as a Ford is no longer. The Nissan Terrano will stay in production, but the Ford Maverick disappears. You just get the Explorer at the moment if you want a 4x4 with a Ford badge on anyway. But the Maverick really is a car that never quite made it. It's certainly not as smart and as stylish as the new Frontiera. In a way, this kind of compares with the previous shape, the previous model Frontiera. Inside, it's very plasticky, very grey. Handling and ride are pretty average, to say the least about it. We've pretty much agreed that the Maverick is a pretty poor 4x4 all round. As we've already mentioned, they tend to sell on price, so don't pay over the odds for any. Interestingly, the Nissan versions seem to attract more buyers than the Ford models and hold their value slightly better too. Again, give the Maverick a good check all round and underneath for any signs of off-road damage. Expect to pay for a 2.4 three-door around £5,000 if in good condition. The better specified GLS models should come in around £9,000 for an early N-plate version. This 2.7 diesel engine is basically a Nissan block underneath. It's probably very reliable. It's not very economical, as we've already mentioned. And as far as performance goes, well, it's no great shakes there either. Seems to take an eternity to get to 60 miles an hour if that's what you're interested in doing in a 4x4. It also sounds truly dreadful. On start-up at tickover, it sounds like you're sat in a taxi. And when you think of the advances that have been made in diesel engines these days and how refined, how quiet they are, particularly at tickover, you can't understand why Ford and Nissan have come up with such a poor engine in the Maverick Terrano range.